Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's that Kaiju King, one half of the Kaiju Brothers, here to bring you another episode of how to illustrate a character. This could be for the basis of a comic book, just an illustration, or anything of the like. So, I basically made this series to pinpoint issues that um, typically you would find that artists and writers can run into early in their career, artist block and writer's block specifically. And again, it's really hard sometimes when you run across that situation because it's your mind and your brain many times being befuddled and trying to make sense of maybe what it is that you're trying to create. And many times I feel that it does help to actually take a break, come back, and then more often than not, you'll find that you have been able to get a release on your creativity. So in this episode, again, this is a commission that was actually given to me by a friend by the name of Bruce. And he was actually pretty convinced that I'll be able to rock out a piece here with my own artistic liberties, creating this character. So I'm not too familiar with the Shin Megami Tensei series, but this character in specific name is Hecate. I might have spelled it wrong, or said it wrong, but it's spelled Hecate, and she's from the Shin Megami Tensei series. Now, this particular character is known as a demon from this series, and actually, I believe she's actually a chthonic goddess of magic and witchcraft. So, stated to be a daughter of the Titans, she's associated with magical arts, ghosts, crossroads, and demons. So, very interesting character. Also dubbed as the one as she who acts from afar. Also, she's associated with the moon, master of the Furies, goddess of revenge. So, really cool character. Really cool character. Sometimes she's depicted as a three-faced god, or a god with three heads. Sometimes it may be a boar, a dog, or even a horse she may actually share faces with. So I wanted to kind of implement some of that into her design here. I had an original design given to me by her from the series just to loosely base my illustration on. So when I went ahead and took on this piece here, I wanted to pull from a few different references, because he did state as well that he wanted more of a dynamic pose or position or image for this character here. So oftentimes than not, I wanted to encourage artists, because I was the same way at some point, believing that you don't, or it's cheating, so to speak, to actually use a reference. And that couldn't be any further from the truth. Many artists use references when they're working on their images, even to the point where you'll see professional illustrators actually use references or tap into references to come up with their work. So I do highly encourage artists to use references. The more that you actually do it, it's also training your mind's eye for future illustrations that you may do. You'll be able to pull from that from memory and to be able to put that onto the canvas. So highly encourage everyone to tap into that resource regarding references there. So Dragon Ball in particular and Naruto are two of the, I guess I wanted to say, the styles or energy that I was hoping to be able to incorporate into this image here. And as you can see, I'm pulling from references from the character. So that you may have seen it appear on the screen, but that was the original illustration for this character that was done for the game. And again, I'm using that, or looking at that from time to time, to come up with my detail here. So after I went ahead and actually added my inks, or the ink version, to the pencil layers that I worked on, I went ahead and actually added my grayscales. So when you're doing your grayscales, normally what you would do is you're going to take, like, in my instance, the way I go about doing it is I select my brush and then I turn that into the color. I use black, but I lower the opacity. And then I go in afterwards and I find an area where I would like to have my light source, and then I will just add my shadows. And then afterwards, I'll go ahead and when I'm doing my actual colors or my grayscales, I'm going to go ahead and select my brush, turn it into a grayscale or an actual gray color. But that gray color is going, or that layer is going to actually go over or above, it's going to go over top of my layer that I use for my shadows. And since for the shadow brush, I originally selected a black brush, but I lowered the opacity so that way you have some transparency to play with. The grayscales will go over top, but that way it won't actually cover it completely. There'll be some bleeding, if that makes sense. So, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, the grayscale brush is going to go underneath my shadow brush. So whatever layer that you use for your transparent black brush, that transparent black brush layer is going to go over top of your colors. Okay, that way it'll go through and you'll be able to actually see your shadows. In a typical fashion, as I've done before, I work in grayscales. Since I'm working digitally, I'm able to go ahead and swap my colors over from gray to an actual color once I get through to the end of the image. And again, I stated before that I'm looking to get into a few specific things when it comes to my artistic direction going forward. One thing in particular that I actually have been studying is an animation technique known as rotoscoping. For those that are maybe not too familiar with rotoscoping, it is a technique that was implemented more so back in the day. You would see it from a lot of different studios, primarily Disney. A lot of old Disney movies use the rotoscoping technique, and it involves actually drawing an animation over top of an actual moving image or a film. And the end result is you get a very fluid looking, lifelike animation. So I've had some previous experience with doing animation before, but not rotoscoping in particular. So that'll be a new project that I'm going to be taking on. So in addition to doing the rotoscoping, I'll be continuing on with doing illustrations as far as sequential art or comic book art. But one thing in particular I wanted to do a bit different when it comes to the comic book art, instead of going with maybe 1 to 3 pages, I'm looking to mostly do 1 page if possible. But I'm looking to try to convey a story without actually using or utilizing words. And that way it'll help me develop more as an artist and a writer as well. Part of this channel, not only am I trying to assist artists, but writers also. So more material will be coming out soon to help with world building and writing. But in specific when it comes to illustrations for the comic book work, I'm going to be looking to be creating pages, but it doesn't actually utilize any words to tell a story. So more of that actually to come. In addition to doing the animation. And again, from time to time, I will have illustrations such as this that I will upload as well. And again, I stated I pulled from a few different references such as Naruto, Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball in specific, and then also the art, if I'm not mistaken, from Joe Bennett. He worked on the Immortal Hulk series, so I pulled inspiration, if possible, from those 3 different series when working on this piece here. And again, rotoscoping, again, it's an animation technique, but it describes the process of basically creating animated sequences by tracing over a live action footage frame by frame. And that's what actually gives you the lifelike image or result as yielded once you finish that animation piece. And surprisingly enough, rotoscoping animation is also used still even to this day. You'll see it in video games, you'll see it in commercials, throughout the music industry. It's still a very popular technique. So as you can see, I picked a light source originally, and I went ahead and added my grays. Being that I'm working digitally again, I'm able to swap those grayscales over to an actual color once it's finished. But I would definitely say again, if you benefited at all from this information, if you enjoyed watching the video, definitely a like and a comment. That always goes a long way. Just any sort of interaction at all definitely means the world to me. And as you can see, we went ahead and I'm swapping over at this point my colors. So going through, selecting my grayscales, and then I'm just moving around and choosing my colors to go along with this here. This has an overall very metal type of feel to it, and that's what the client stated he was looking for when he originally commissioned me to work on this. He was hoping that I would be able to keep that whole energy throughout this piece. So I'm glad that he was very satisfied with this image overall. And one big thing too I've been trying to focus on for the most part is like composition. I know that's very important when it comes to art pieces. So again, there's the journey for an artist. It never stops. You're always improving. It's always a thing of self-improvement, and you want to have fun with it at the same time. But again, if you enjoyed this material, definitely a like, a comment, a share. Any of those three goes a long way. It definitely helps me keep pushing. And again, I benefit greatly from that. If you know of anybody that can benefit from this material, definitely give them a share. Give this a share. I'll bring this across to them. I'll be doing some more things pretty soon as far as my direction. So the main three things I'm looking to do is updating my merchant store. So more information on that soon to come. We'll be doing rotoscoping, animation, and then comic book art. But again, I thank you all for your time, and y'all take it easy. Later.